It is the Anfield Wrap. Neil Atkinson with you after Liverpool have been beaten by 3-0 by Manchester City at the Etihad. I have got with me Grace Mailey, I've got Mo Stewart, I've got Ian Ryan, and this could put you and Phil level. I'm saying for miserable free shows this season. That wasn't the aim, was it?
I don't think it's us. I mean, we have won some when I've been on as well. So
no, I don't
it's
think
important to say that.
It's not you and Phil. It can't be you and Phil.
It's them, not us. Yeah. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. I think we'll put the responsibility elsewhere, but it is worth saying you've now done a solid run of them and no mistake. Where is Phil? He must have disappeared off somewhere. May not have come home. Right. On the off chance I'd have asked him to sit in on this, on all of that. Listen, we're brought to you with Peloton, and Peloton are partnering with us for a second year. They are the official cardio and strength partner of Liverpool Football Club. They've got a new line that they launched back in October, the cross training series. It's Bike Tread, Bike Plus, and it's powered by Peloton IQ, which helps you train smarter by generating self-paced custom workouts and all the bits and pieces done hands-free. And whenever you train, it can be part of that process with you, whether or not you have a Peloton bike. Existing members also get a huge software update as part of that, and also we've got our own thing on the Peloton app, a little team there for the Anfield Wrap. So if you search the Anfield Wrap on the Peloton app, you can find that. You'll see that I'm on it. You can follow me. Not much action. I'm not going to lie to you, but I know it's something I need to improve on and change. The problem is me, most definitely not Peloton. But John is on it all the time, and he's also running that group as well in a really, really good way. So do check all of that out, especially on the running through the dark nights, etc., etc. Coming up also, John Gibbons talking to Dom King about some work that he's doing for Alfie's squad, some fundraising there. But talking about dark nights, Ian Ryan, it became a dark night at the Etihad from a Liverpool point of view. We'll get stuck into refereeing, officiating. We might even get stuck into the idea that Liverpool concede from 3 relatively unlikely shots, shooting positions. The first one is a ricochet off the big lad. But I can't get into that without very much hammering the fact that Liverpool get exactly what they deserve. I'm not sympathetic, particularly to Liverpool in this. It's yet another away game where in the first half, and the last time they play well in a league away game is all the way back against Burnley in the first half. It's now 4 consecutive league away games where I think in the first 45 minutes Liverpool have been really genuinely very, very poor indeed.
I would agree. I think the first time that's happened since 2012, they've lost 4 league games away from home on the spin. Beggars belief a little bit, to be honest. And I think you're right. I posted something at half-time yesterday, and people came back at me a little bit because I said that Liverpool, let's be clear, didn't really deserve anything from that first 45. And people would say, well, they deserved the goal. And I get that because there is obviously the officiating issue, which feels like it's a constant now in modern football. I think it's at a bit of an all-time low, and being honest. And again, yesterday it was there for everyone to see. They're below the level. But Liverpool are also well below the level, and not for the first time. And it is a constant thing where it's away game after away game where they just look an absolute mile off it. And if you're going to start football matches on 45, then guess what? You're not going to win many of them.
Yeah.
And most of the time, you won't come away from that ground with anything because the other team will often be in the ascendancy. So Liverpool just keep shooting themselves in the face, and it's hard to really put your finger on what's going wrong. Is it an appetite, desire thing from some of the players? That does feel like it's there in a lot of these games. I think there's the tactical stuff, which I'm sure we'll get into. The manager references it post-match as well. Talks a little bit about, well, it's easier to win duels if the game plan's there. That shines a big old light on him, by the way. The game plan, the tactical stuff, that's down to him. So for me, he's saying...
What's interesting post-match, he very much puts his... I think he puts his head in the noose on it, himself, the manager post-match. Yeah. And I think he's going out of his way to do it. I think he's saying...
him a little bit,
I don't know, I just think he's being honest. I think he's saying, they weren't right, and that's down to me.
Yeah, well, I think that is fair. So I think there's a bit of chicken and egg stuff when you talk about game plan and tactics. He talks about that in the context of if the game plan's right, the tactics are right, that helps facilitate things like people winning their duels. I would agree with that. Yeah. But also there's a thing where, from a personal pride point of view, there's this thing where if you win your duels, then you win the right to play as well. And the lads mentioned that a little bit on post-match, and I've talked about it on lots of these shows when we've been battered or beaten. The fundamentals, the basics of football, there's a bit of that in there as well. So I think, one feeds the other. But I also think by him doing that is correct. He should take responsibility. He is the manager. He is leading the football club. So I totally get that. But that also just lets 1 or 2 off the hook. And I don't think that's right either, because I think there's players there that I'm seeing week in, week out who are just a mile off it.
Away games are hard.
They are.
And let's be clear, you can play well at City or lose. No one in the Premier League wins an away game this weekend. No side wins an away game.
No.
So the 10 games happen, no one wins away from home all the way through it.
No one even comes close, really.
Not really. Man United maybe might feel like they've got to add a little bit of hard lines. Arsenal, it's a late equaliser, to be fair.
Yeah.
But no, I'm sort of with you. There's not... No one, for instance, goes away from home this weekend and you go, my God, they took some living with over the course of it. You can play well at City and lose. And if they'd have played well at City and lost, then we could be angry at the officials. We could be angry at X or Y. They just very much do not test the theory that you can play well at City and lose. I would say they test the theory, actually, that City can look well drilled, look smart, but actually not be that good in the final third and still score 3 goals. That's the theory Liverpool managed to test.
Yeah, and I mean, there were points in that game, particularly in the second half, where I'm like, if we get out of here and it's just 3, then that's something, because it could have been a lot worse. And it's really depressing when you consider all of the momentum that had started to build, all the building blocks that started to be built to get away from that difficult period. And we were almost kind of boxing it off as a difficult month and say, okay, that happens to a team every now and then, and now we can kind of go on with the rest of the season. But this throws all of that back into the water. And it was just really disappointing, not just the idea of what Ian was talking about in terms of having the right to play, but just so many of the things that happened were predictable, not just because we've seen them before, but because we've seen them when we played Manchester City before. And even talking on manager, some of the things he said on Friday about how 10 out of 10 times you know what Man City are going to do and we know exactly what they're going to do and all that kind of stuff. I was a bit like, really? Because they have been a little bit different this season. There have been a few things, and you look in the numbers and like, we had more of the ball. We had more possession against Man City at the Etihad, which I'm not sure that's ever happened before. And we weren't able to do anything with it because they were happy for us to have the possession, because they weren't confident that the way that they had set up meant that our position was never going to actually threaten them. And we talk about the offside goal, and we're going to talk about it again. There were weaknesses that the City have that we did nowhere near enough to try to exploit. And again, from a game plan point of view, that's really disappointing. But I just wonder what Slot's going to be thinking about over this break. Is it, am I going to have to change my opinion on some of the players? Am I going to have to change my opinion on some of these tactics? Or does he think that they will be able to get through, keep going? Because this is now at the point where you have to really start wondering on that.
You have to worry about it away from home. We mentioned winning the right to play, and to me that's what I think is there's commonality in the 4 away defeats, is in the first half of each of them, Grace, they don't look like they're built. They've got that sort of set up to battle for 15 minutes of any of those 4 halves effectively. And I think that is what's difficult to watch, and you sort of see it from the first whistle. You really see it quite early again here that Liverpool just do not look as though they are prepared to do everything that you've got to do to impose yourself. And this isn't just the physical, and it's not just the mental, it is also the tactical. I couldn't see what the plan was.
No.
And that to me is the most concerning thing. Was the plan to be passive? Was the plan to be aggressive? But it looks like it's both, and therefore it's neither. You know, for me, there's all this stuff that is hugely concerning in the first 20 minutes of this one.
Yeah, it was just like, it was between both, as you said. There didn't seem to be a set plan of action, which was the concern from the off. Like, I saw the starting 11 and thought, well, this will be fine, because they played in midweek. They were brilliant against Madrid, arguably the best performance I've seen from them all season. So you look at that and you go, they're going into a game against City. You know, well, you so often know what you're going to get against City. You know that it's a big occasion. You know that you're away at the Etihad. Like, let's just chuck it all out there and play like you did against Madrid. And we should be all right. But it just felt like we'd gone back 2 matches to before we'd won a game. And they didn't seem anywhere near as confident going into the game against City as they did going in against Madrid. And we were so exposed. Canate was so exposed. And that was the way City had set up. City had set up to leave him in acres of space. But, like, Haaland was just targeting Van Dijk. Every time Mamardashvili had the ball, he couldn't pass to Van Dijk because Haaland was just so close to him. And that meant that Canate was so exposed. And I love Canate. I think he's a brilliant player, but they've done that deliberately because they know that they can exploit him. And City just made...
It's worth pointing out at this point too, City's assistant manager is.
Well, yeah. And that staggers me. Absolutely staggers me.
But he's worked with
He knows what he's doing.
He's worked with Canate for 3 years, 3 seasons.
I mean, to be fair, he could have just watched them this season and he'd have... I'm being deadly serious.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He's been a bit of a mess in lots of games this season. Fully enough, he wasn't against Real Madrid, call me cynical, but he steps up when he has a good game in that match. But he's been, like lots of others, he's been way below the level, and yesterday was another example of that.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's just that. Like, I think your game can often be won or lost in midfield, and we were not at the races at all yesterday. Thought Gravenberch had an absolute shocker. Like,
poor performance for us sometime.
And all right, they're allowed a shocker every now and again. You're playing City at the Etihad, it's not easy. I don't think that was solely to blame. I just think City were miles better than what we were. And yeah, we'll come on to talk about the disallowed goal. And I think two things can be true at the same time. That goal should have been given. We were also awful. And that's fine.
Yeah. No, I think that it's the winning the right to play point, Mal, is I think a big part of this. There's no sort of grist to these performances, I don't think, and I think that is the concern. And again, I don't want to act as though I don't want to do the Roy Keane, you don't want it enough thing. I just don't necessarily believe that. And you look at the numbers afterwards, they'll put in 100 more pressures than Manchester City in terms of how StatsBomb measures pressures. But the point about this is, the eye told you that City played with more intensity. But I think that therefore what we're actually talking about here is positioning and going as a team. Szoboszlai presses like a demon all match, but the number of times he turns around and he's going, well, I'm the only one here. And the reason why is I think there's a lack of confidence, not even necessarily in themselves, but in each other. Yeah. And I think that lack of confidence, especially away from home, is what's doing them in at the minute more than anything else for me.
I agree. I think this game exacerbates all of that as well, because so many of them have got scar tissue from going to Etihad and being brutally exposed. I think Robertson in particular, there were a couple of moments in that first half where the pressing was happening and you see the whole first wave go up, and then Robertson suddenly stops because he sees Cherki running directly behind him. Because again, Pep Guardiola knows what's happened. There's been so many times Liverpool have gone to Etihad and they try to expose runners in behind Robertson when he comes up, because sometimes he'll come up late or sometimes he'll come up too far and he hasn't got the speed to get back in. So he would have been thinking of that, and he was a little bit caught between two stools. And I mean, to be honest, I remember Josh and I were talking about this on his show last week about the correlation between the effort, desire and stuff and tactical things. So when you have belief in the tactical plan, it's easier for you to go all out and to throw yourself into tackles and everything. But when you're a little bit unsure of things, whether it's in the plan, whether it's in your teammates, you are a little bit more hesitant, you are a little bit more, trying to just thinking about things more. And so that kind of plays out in those kind of physical battles and stuff. And I think we saw that all over the pitch. Players who were either not sure of what they were being told to do or not sure of the ability of their teammates to carry out what they were being told to do. And I think the latter, for me, is a bigger problem, because with his tactics and stuff like that, we've seen so many times Slot is able to tweak and adapt. More last season than this season, to be fair. But you've seen where he's been able to adapt. But if the players don't believe in their teammates, that their teammates are able to do it, then that's a lot more of a fundamental issue than he's solving.
I think it is, and I think it is a problem, and I think it's a big problem for them. And it's back to the basics, and the basics are that you've got to have faith in the players that are around you, your teammates. But also, you don't get better circumstances than this. You're off the back of a big win on Tuesday. It's not a home game, don't get me wrong, but there's no travel involved. We've been talking about that over the course of the season. It's not Wednesday to Saturday, it's Tuesday to Sunday. You don't get, for me, there's just no hiding place and no excuse. And if there's not clarity on when we all go, boys, then ultimately that's wrong. That's not good enough. And that's what's, that to me is what's got to get settled. And I think you can see in a couple of examples. I think Virgil not closing Caicedo because he's worried about what's over his left shoulder a bit too much is a really good example of it. But there's just tons of them yesterday getting that game against City. And I'll say again, I don't think City played that well. Doku aside, I think those City play with a real sense of collective idea.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what plays out over the course of the game.
Yeah, I think both things can be right in this kind of scenario. So the tactical game plan stuff, absolutely. No, I agree with Mo. If that bit's on point, then it does instill a level of confidence where you know when to go, when to sit, when to press collectively, etc., etc. I don't think you can really argue with that. You know, the manager's saying it. I think that all feels fine and fair. But then there is the individual stuff as well, which just almost adds to it and just fuels it a little bit, where you're giving examples there, like Virgil van Dijk not going out and closing Caicedo down in that instance in the Chelsea game. That's not really, for me, about tactics. That's just about a player taking ownership of that moment. He's living and breathing the game. The captain's 34, 35 years of age. He knows fucking full well in that moment. You go and close down the lad who's shooting, because that's the imminent danger. So I think it's really hard to put your finger on one thing. I think there's multiple things going on, and I've said it on all the shows as well. For me, you know, at the minute, you wouldn't say any of these players are bad, but you can level certain things at them. And it would really, I suppose it would really hurt me if I was a Liverpool player, that one of the things you can level at them is they're a soft touch. They are a fucking soft touch away from home. They have been all season. I mean, you even mentioned Burnley before, and I'm thinking back and thinking, were they good at Burnley? I don't remember them being great at Burnley, if I'm honest.
Great at Burnley, they just weren't
struggling. I mean, they had chances to go ahead in that game, but I remember it being a bit of a tough old game and making Burnley look like far more competent than they probably are going to go on and look for the majority of this season. And I know they've done all right in certain moments and patches, but I'm struggling, and I'm seeing different teams now beat Liverpool, so it's not suddenly all of the direct stuff that you were seeing maybe in previous games where it's a problem. You know, a lot got spoken about after Villa and Madrid. I'll play football against this Liverpool team. Guess what? You're in for a tough time.
Well, this is what I'm saying before about, you know, you can go to the Etihad and play well and not win. We've seen Liverpool teams, but there's the point. The point though is, so lads, play well.
Yeah.
Play well, and then we'll worry about. We'll have the conversation later on. And that to me is and also when the worst's happening, boys, because it's happening to you. You might as well just be more dynamic. You might as well just fully commit, because whatever this isn't working. That's what was doing my head in a little bit, and you know, I can sort of pull substitutions into that in the second half as well. But there's a thing in my mind, Ian, which is, lads, wherever it is you've ended up, why can't we just all get together quickly and in 10 seconds go, right, let's just be front foot here, because where we've ended up just isn't working, and that to me is part of the taking responsibility.
Yeah, and you know, this is about, what I say before, it's hard to put your finger on one thing. So people at the start of the season would have gone, well, there's loads of new players, and that's having an impact. Well, then he's reverted to something else where he's picking a lot of his main boys. So all of a sudden, it's not loads of new players. All right, the goalie aside, very, very familiar back four. All right, Vertis in there, but it's the midfield three from last season. So you can't even really point at that. You know, Salah's playing. All right, Gakpo comes off the bench yesterday. But it was a lot of lads who know each other and should know each other's game and should have trust in each other and should have confidence and have played with each other for a decent amount of time. So that's where it becomes quite difficult to square some of this. Listen, the manager's got to take some responsibility, and I'm not going to sit here, having watched him win the league in his first season, and call into question his future right now. That would be wrong for me. You know, we're in November, you know, we're just into the autumn and stuff. We're just getting through the autumn. I think, I'm a big believer in people get a chance or should have a chance to put things right. He absolutely has earned that. But he's got to start doing it quickly. You know, Liverpool they've basically lost half the games. You know, it's 5-11. That's only happened 4 times. You take Premier League era, as an example. You know, people don't like doing that, but you know, using that as a kind of as a point in time.
It's 33 years of season.
Exactly. It's a long period, that, and it's the 5th time where they've lost 5-11, and you know, those were the seasons don't particularly pan out too well either, although one of them is when Jurgen Klopp comes in. But Liverpool have got far better players in most of those seasons, in all of those seasons. So there is that. And at some point you're thinking, well, it will be okay and it will click, but it has to click soon, because this is now quite a long period of time where it's not just in domestic games, it's European football as well, certainly away from home, where, again, they look a little bit of a soft touch. And yeah, they've got a lot of figuring out to do over the next couple of weeks.
Second half, they come out and they look like they've had some clarification chat at half-time, Grace.
Again, banging their heads together.
Back to the idea of, I'll tell you what, Liverpool, let's play well and worry about it all later on.
Yeah.
You know, if they'd have won the second half 1-0, they'd have still lost the game. But if you'd have come away from that going, they looked like a going concern. They did this, they did this, they did this. City ended up on the back foot. City were hanging on a bit towards the end. That's what then doesn't happen. They are good for, say, 12 minutes of the second half, and then they just wilt.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost as though, because it hasn't gone in the first sort of 10, 12, 13 minutes, maybe it coincides with when the manager makes the substitutions, maybe it coincides with when Gakpo misses the chance at 2-0, and that just takes the air out of the balloon. But whatever it is, they wilt when they haven't scored by that point. And for me, that's, again, back to what is or isn't acceptable. This is not good enough. It's just not good enough what ends up happening in the second half. And if anything, it's marked out by virtue of the fact that they showed for 10 minutes that they could take the game to Manchester City, because City were not comfortable in that 10-minute period.
You can't wait till the second half of a football match to start playing. You just can't do it. And that is essentially what they did. I mean, all right, you bring them together at half-time and you say, what's going on here? Like, all wake up. Remember who you are. Remember you can play a game of football and go out there. I think first half we showed them far too much respect. We turned up and we were like, all right, this is City, they're good at what they do. Like, it's as if we never won the league last season. It's as if City weren't awful last season. And then second half we come out and for 10 minutes you think, all right, this could end in a draw. But we don't have a shot on target till the 76th minute. And that's just not acceptable. And there are so many things, like you can put your finger on so many incidents yesterday. I mean, there was at one point where we were on the attack and Gakpo's jogging and I'm going, why is he not sprinting? Like, why are you not putting that extra effort in? You've just come on the pitch. Why are you not putting the extra 10% in to get yourself in that box so when the ball comes in, you're in there? There were times when Szoboszlai was in the box and there was nobody to pass to because there was nobody in there. And it's like you can trust your teammates enough to know that they're going to be there when you want them there. But if they're not, you've lost faith in them. And then from then, you're not trusting in each other. You can blame the manager all you want. Like, so many people call for his head on, like, social media and say, you know, he should go. It's not all his fault. It's definitely not his fault.
My take on that is, what problems does that solve? Honestly, let's actually play it out. Say he does leave. First of all, who's coming in? Second of all, what are their plans? Third of all, does it make players suddenly start playing better? Does it make players suddenly start gelling together? Does it make certain players who are out injured suddenly come miraculously uninjured? I don't think he does any of those things. I don't think we're really even in an era where the new manager bounce is still a thing. I think that's dissipated anyway.
No, for me, it's as Ian said before, I'm like a million miles away from any of that stuff. But what I am irritated about, Grace there said about, busting a gut, using Gakpo as the example. Lads, when you're 2 or 3-0 down, it'd be nice if someone goes and plays centre forward when we've got the ball. It'd be nice if someone runs the penalty spot. Yeah. Because the ball may, and gets into that area.
Virgil's up front at one point and I'm up and going, what's going on here?
Good touch, actually, from the way he was there.
but again, Look, I understand the fact that when we signed for him, there was lots of talk about him being a false nine and about how that could work for this team and about how there were lots of good reasons for it, or it seemed like it. But when Ekitike, who had hardly had a kick of the game, comes off after 56 minutes, and yes, we've got Alexander Isak, who we don't know how fit he is, but we've also got Federico Chiesa. We've got 2 forwards on, and then Gakpo comes on, and then suddenly Verts is the guy who's been asked to do in the middle because Gakpo goes out into the wide areas. And you're thinking, well, okay, we need a presence. We need a goal. We need someone who's going to be sniffing for a goal. And so we want about Chiesa's ability to actually play as a centre forward. One thing he does do is he does try to crash the box as often as possible when stuff's out wide. And then you mentioned the Gakpo miss. I think that's kind of indicative of what I'm talking about because it felt like he wasn't expecting it. Even though like Bradley's made that run and he didn't even look up. He just fired it across. It was a great ball, but it kind of came on Gakpo without him realising it. It's like, if you're the guy who's come on to replace our centre forward, you need to have more forwardy instincts. You need to have more.
But it's also Gakpo's goal. The reason why it's such a frustrating miss is that it's the goal you've watched Gakpo score a number of times. It's Gakpo's goal. This is what this is.
I've used him as an example, but it's not at all on him at all. That is just an example of, do these players just think they should be given a start because of who they are? Are they not grafting for the shirt? I can't. And there's been so many things that have happened, and like, you know, they've all had a rough summer. Then you're trying to integrate new players into a side that are mourning and they can't gel properly. And then because we've spent so much money in the summer, we're trying to play all these new players. He's gone, okay, let's go back to the drawing board and stick to what we know. Stick to a group of 11 players who can play football together. Let's do it. And I just think we've given them too much respect.
They end up, but talk about giving them respect, they're dealing with what they are. There are sides who have had leads this season and second half of last season, got into a second half and found it hard. Liverpool are on top. This is what I find in this period. Yes, City will always have a little bit of a spell, but it is like Liverpool just almost vacate the football match in the 5 minutes that precedes the goal to make it 3-0. And it's a great goal, and all that plays brilliantly, you know, all the way through the game. Doku, I think he's had a really, really good season. I think he's carrying tons of threat. You know, I think he's difficult to live with, and he's come on. He's still a young player. It's worth we can show him that respect. But at the same time, there's 5 minutes before that where Liverpool have gone from feeling like, hang on, the wind's in our sails here, to non-existent. And the same way that they get the goal that's chalked off, Ian, they're actually all right for 5 minutes in the build-up to the goal that's chalked off. It gets chalked off, and it feels a little bit like everyone just feels sorry for themselves.
Yeah, this is where I'm struggling with it, because I absolutely accept the tactical stuff. I think it's there for everyone to see. But there is this thing where individuals in these moments it's like they're knocking off. And there was a spell just before half time, for maybe 10-15 minutes. I think it gets referenced on the commentary where there is lads just strolling around, and it's like, fucking hell, boys. What are we watching here?
Just after the goal's been chalked off. Yeah.
How was this a thing? You know, obviously you would expect maybe that's listen, it can go one of two ways when a decision goes against you like that. But I would like to think the champions might just show a little bit about themselves and go, hang on, all right, that's been knocked off. I say, okay, and then we go again. And there wasn't any of we go again. It was so poor. And as I say, you can talk about the goal being chalked off, and it is a really, really poor decision. I don't care what anyone says. I know Roy Keane tried his best in the studio to make it sound like the referee had made the right call, but for me, it's a goal all day long. But decisions will go against you. Well, that does happen. But I think the best teams just use that to fuel them. They deal with it, and they go on to the next thing. You know, Grace mentioned before, when the team's dropped, on paper, you look at it and think, Liverpool got a chance here. They've got a chance because that middle of the park, what City have got there, yeah, it's got good technical ability in there, but they're not big powerhouses. You know, but Bernardo Silva, been a great player, unbelievable servant, but he's not a huge physical presence. Phil Foden, not a huge physical presence, good technical footballers. Nico Gonzalez, still adjusting and stuff, but yeah, he's done okay more recently. But you're thinking, if Liverpool get anywhere near the intensity that they showed against Real Madrid, 5 days previous, by the way, City play against Dortmund the night after. So let's put that one to bed. That Liverpool are tired here. That get mentioned as well post-match yesterday. 3 games in a week. Fucking hell, boys, we're only in November. If we can't do 3 games in a week now, we're never going to be able to do 3 games in a week. So, you know, that is just not a thing. You know, they had 5 days. We said on the pre-match going into the game, perfect, lovely gap. That is almost perfect.
No travel.
That is almost perfect. You're going 30 odd miles down the road. It should not be a problem. And yet, there's times when they genuinely all looked leggy. But you think, well, hang on, that can't be a thing. So is it a minds thing? Is it mental? Probably yes, for some of them. But yeah, it's an issue at the minute, right across the board. It's hard to look at the team and go, well, he's playing well, he's doing the right stuff. I think there's lads who give their all yesterday. You know, Sabozlai probably falls into that category. I think Conor Bradley falls into that category. Maybe not a ton of quality to back it up, but the effort and the applications there. You know, back to what we were talking about before, individual mistakes. We'll probably come on to some in a minute, but, you know, people not jumping for balls. Even the captain, I hate that dangling a leg out. He does it against Brentford as well, and I don't even think that's necessarily a penalty, but it is a little bit like, it's not quite the level you'd expect them when people just dangling legs out. Anything can happen in that instance. I don't like it as a thing, and I think players playing with surety and certainty don't do stuff like that, and I certainly don't expect it from him.
Let's live in a world, just for a split second, where the game is adequately officiated. Let's live into that space. It's a great delivery. It's a great header.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good header. And you do need a slice of luck in big away games. You just do. You know, I think that great Liverpool sides, that you've watched, league-winning Liverpool sides. Every now and again, you'll go away from home, it'll be hard, you'll have a hard period, and something will come for you, and you'll dig yourself out, and you'll go from there. So I am sympathetic, around that. But what it ends up doing is I think it gives City a boost.
Yeah, well, it does. I mean, so the thing about the luck and riding your luck, and sometimes you need something to go for you, and then from there, in a hard away game, you can there build. Well, that had already happened. They'd missed a penalty. We'd got away with one there. That had already happened, and it had zero effect.
I think it was a pen, though.
I think it can go either way. I really do. I think you can look at that. I think that is the real definition of subjective, because the touch is minimal.
I hate this thing now where every touch can now be a penalty.
Yeah, but you know what's mad?
It's a physical game. No, like not every bit of contact has to be a penalty now, but they are analysing it to that degree where, and it's not even if it's consistent across games, because you see one in the Brentford-Newcastle game where there is contact and they don't give that one. So it's really hard to know what they are going to give and what they're not going to give now, and it makes it massively frustrating.
The problem for Mamardashvili is he does come flying out. It's the speed and almost recklessness with which he moves, which I think counts against him, even if the touch itself is minimal. But as I say, they get away with that. Just to know, I want to come back on that, because what I think, I sort of agree with you if there are free gives. So if you want to do it, he's come out dead fast and it looks a certain way. Well, it looks a certain way when you've only got one view in real time and the referee gives it. What I'm astounded by with the penalty is that it's an overturn. It's not that the penalty's given in real time, and I also think there might be a handball that follows it, by the way. Yeah.
So let's be clear about that. And also Liverpool should concede, and it's Canate's fault. Bradley's got the situation under control.
He has.
And Canate comes over and just absolutely ruins the whole thing. But it's what I'm surprised by is, first, I'm surprised the referee doesn't give it. But all of that said, I'm with the position of, I don't even think it's crystal clear that he actually makes any meaningful contact. I think it's big for an overturn. That's my position here.
Again, I think this falls into another issue with this situation, is that there are rules that obviously everyone's going by, but you also live and die by the subjective opinion of the referees in particular. So if Michael Oliver, the VAR, had been on the pitch and Chris Kavanagh had been in the office, Michael Oliver probably would have given it on field. And it's because he looks at it and thinks that is a penalty, whereas Chris Kavanagh's thinking, well, I'm not 100% sure, this is a massive game, I've got this fallback of the VAR, I'm not going to give it because I know they're going to check it anyway. And then Oliver's obviously decided that in his opinion, that it should be a penalty. And that's the problem, is that the VAR is meant to be something that helps eliminate subjectivity to a degree. It's meant to be a uniform idea of what is and what isn't. But there are some decisions on a football pitch where that's just not possible.
Well, the one that follows it, Mo, is a perfect example. And also, I don't know, because you don't get to see what it is that the video assistant referee's looking at. You're not sure. On the footage that we get to see, you don't see the angle from behind the goal until after it's being chalked off. And as soon as you see the angle from behind the goal, I think it's remarkably difficult to be of the view the goalkeeper is in any way, shape or form impeded by Robertson's position.
I agree. So the thing that I said in my match report, and I was saying to people in conversations afterwards, is that if you take Robertson out of the situation, Donnarumma's dive is exactly the same. Like it's exactly the same. It's not like he didn't see the ball. He saw it at the point it left Van Dijk's head. And he knew from the direction where it was going, and he tried to get there, and he didn't, because it was a very good header. So you can say that Robertson was maybe in his eye line, but it wasn't affecting his movement. And it's funny because where I was, there were a few ex-players around having conversations about it, and all of the ex-players were very much like that should be a goal. I mean, I was not entirely surprised to hear Roy Keane be the voice of difference on that point, but...
I've got much more sympathy with Donnarumma the week before, when Brooks links his arm.
Yes.
He's going to go and punch the ball. I've got much more sympathy with that. In that, what are you doing linking the arm of a goalkeeper in the 6-yard box? You are trying to impede him, but you then pull it away in some sort of magic trick, it doesn't really count gaffer, where I'm not having. Like, you're doing that. There's a reason why you're doing that, and that's to put him off.
Yeah.
And in general, that's part of the way in which set pieces are now officiated, full stop. This, to me, is something completely different. But there's another thing in the back of my mind, because you begin to think like this, is part of this being, we can't fucking stitch this lad up 2 weeks on the bounce.
Yeah, which shouldn't be a thing, but apparently is the...
I'm not saying I'm not even saying it's true. It just it's the same end. It's the same goalkeeper. It's a set piece. Do you know what? It just sort of made me sort of go, well, hang on. Last week I think he got done. Do you know what? I could be completely wrong, but go back to the point is that you can think that, if you know what I mean, because there's so much that goes on through the way in which this stuff's both officiated at the time and then retrospectively.
Yeah. Although I do say Gary O'Neill might have something to say about that, because it felt like he got stepped up week after week with his Wolves manager. Yeah. But I take your point. It is one of those things where sometimes those external things come into it. All of this is to say that two ironies here. Number one, the fact that they took so long to make those two decisions we just talked about is the reason why City had 7 minutes of injury time, during which they scored the second goal. And Liverpool were a bit more like standoffish. Liverpool sometimes look like they're just trying to get into the dressing room, particularly when it's been a bad game. And that passivity helped City in that moment, because it was like, right, okay.
Yep.
But again, going back to attitude and stuff like that, you'd think if Liverpool were angry that this goal got chalked off, that they should use that anger to fuel them rather than just thinking, oh, it's not our day, and throwing your hands up a little bit.
Just get into half time at 1-0. Fuck's sake, push, get in at 1-0.
And
you got 5 or 6 minutes, just dig in. I don't care what your tactical instructions are. That's the bit I'm talking about, where individuals, your personal pride, your kind of instincts take over, and you go, no matter what now, even if we have to launch it, nothing else happens in this half, and we get in and regroup and we come back out for the second half. That's what you'd expect from a team of champions. Do you know what I mean? That's the bit where it's starting to really frustrate me now, that these mistakes are just, they're so like immature. And this is not an immature football team. It's lads who've been there and done it. So that's what I'm struggling to square some of this. Little spells in games like that where you think, just think with your head for 5 minutes, boys, and play the game, play what's in front of you, and just see it out, and we'll go from there. And we can all moan about the decision then, and we'll feel like we've got a bit more, I suppose, to moan about because it's only 1-0. But when it goes 2, then you find it really hard to make really strong arguments. It probably felt like a 2-0 half to me. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, it does feel like a 2-0 half, and I'm not having this back to. I don't really care about moan or not, but this is back to you can go to the Etihad and play well and not win. Yeah. So I can just start with fucking playing well. Yeah. And genuinely, and this is, and then I don't want to moan. Like, for instance, if we'd have played well and got beat 3-0, which is very possible, especially when you think about those 3 goals, one deflecting off his face, one deflecting off the lad on the edge of the box, one's a 25 yards from a great player who's having a great game. All of that can happen to you in a match. And when Liverpool went to Barcelona in 18-19 and got beat 3-0, Messi free kick, and everyone came away saying, fuck, we've had hard lines there. It is possible. I'd rather start with let's play well, and then we'll worry about the moaning later. And there's just not enough of the just play well. Just impose yourself.
Yeah. But even within the context of the disallowed goal, right, you can focus on the supposed and actual injustice of not getting the goal. What I would like someone to have said, at least once, is, look, we got the better of them from the first set piece we had in the game, and we scored a goal from it. So let's keep doing that. Let's keep being a threat from set pieces. Were they a threat from any of the other set pieces? No. That was another thing that annoyed me. Because City, we spoke about it on Thursday, about City have started leaking goals from set pieces. So this is something that we should be absolutely trying to use to our advantage. And it felt like that goal, or not goal, killed that as well.
Go on.
I was going to say, we did obviously the game after we beat Villa. It was nice, wasn't it?
Yeah.
2-0. Remember that? So we did that, and in that show after that game, I talked about that instance in Frankfurt where, you know, Florian Wirtz gives away the ball, but no one really backs him up. It's 80 yards from Liverpool's goal. You know, a similar incident happens in that game where Nico Riley's got it in the corner. How far is he away from our goal?
Yeah.
Fucking 120 yards. It's a 20-pass move. That's nice, isn't it? Did anyone think about just throwing a tackle in and stopping it? Like, do you think Bernardo Silva or Nico Gonzalez would have allowed that to materialise in the way it does?
The way they play out from the corner, but also what drives me mad about that little playing out from the corner is they're waiting to be fouled. They're literally looking around going, someone's going to foul me in a minute. And that's how we're going to get out. The way we get out of this jam is that someone fouls me, and then no one has the decency even to do that, and then suddenly go, hang on, there's loads of space in the middle of the park, let's go. And even then, when it rolls, and this you know, about whether or not Van Dijk should have stayed at left back, etc., etc. But one of the things that happens is that Bernardo Silva's got all the time in the world. Every bit of his body language says he's going to go back centre half or go back left, and he has the time to look around and go, "That's all right down here. Actually, I'll just stay here." And no one's pressing, no one's dropped back in, and no one's then pushing back out at him. And that was
it's mad how they get out and progressive from there without anyone.
It's the shittest 20-pass move goal I've ever seen.
You know what? and you know what? And if you're a City fan, you're probably sitting there praising that because I'd understand that because but it's just there to be broken up. I've got some sympathy with Robertson for the goal because you can clearly see him telling Van Dijk, stay there, let this calm down, and then we'll switch back. But Van Dijk's keen as anything to get back in. You understand that to an extent because that's where he's familiar. But I think Robbo was just trying to say, let this just calm down for 2 minutes, then we'll switch. But
keen as mustard is my favourite. Keen based simile. Keen as mustard.
Honest to God.
No, I'm with you 100%. But also, as I say, it's like it's a 20-pass. They get to say it's a 20-pass move, but you look at the passes in the end, and you just look at, like as I say, watching it back, I'm looking at it all going, well, it just looks dead easy, and it doesn't look dead easy because it's great football, which is sometimes the case with these. It's just literally because no one's actually bothered at any point to actively, aggressively try and get the ball off them.
There are certain games now for me where
play a computer game on easy.
I'm looking at it and I'm thinking. And I did say it over the summer, but you know, it would. I understood why people weren't maybe bang into it because Liverpool just won a league without a recognised proper number 6 in the kind of sense of someone who kind of sits and controls and can do a little bit of everything, can break stuff up, can be aggressive. But I think when you do see Gravenberch out games like that, where I agree with you, it's his poorest one, it does just make you think. Not necessarily take him out the team because I think he can play different parts of the pitch. Gravenberch, I think he's a talented boy. We've seen enough of him to suggest that. And I'm saying this knowing full well Liverpool in the league last year without one of these players. But I do think there are things happening now where I'm just thinking, you know, Liverpool did try and sign a 6 at one point. There are certain football matches now where I'm thinking I wouldn't mind having someone in there who's just a bit more used to patrolling that area, understands the position, is a little bit more aggressive, can control things. Is also good on the ball. It just looks like that's a bit of a missing thing in our armoury. But listen, we can't do anything about it now. But at some point, it wouldn't surprise me if Liverpool revisit that.
I think for me, it's not so much about the idea of having someone who's going to go into the first team every week and is going to completely disrupt the flow of the triangle we've got. It's having that option. It's being in a situation, seeing the way the game's going and thinking...
I don't think that...
No, I'm in complete disagreement because I just think it just shows how important Gravenberch is as a player. When he's off it, you notice the difference.
But also the player who was good enough that the manager turns around and says, I'm playing him at the Etihad in that game. He was the squad player that you're describing just doesn't exist. No. He's either playing somewhere where he gets picked every week because he's that good. Because what Ian just described, you don't get the player that Ian just described who's doing this list of things because that's not Polina. Polina's a good example.
I'm buying one who starts every week, by the way.
That's where it is. So Ian's argument is he's buying one that starts every week, but
most weeks.
So therefore, then he's dropping Alexis McAllister.
But that's the thing, isn't it? It's like it becomes.
I'm just saying. This is a midfield that are getting turned over on a regular basis. I've got no fucking allegiance to any of them.
I know. I'm just saying.
Listen, they've all been great for Liverpool, but. If there's something better on the market that improves Liverpool, I'm banging.
I think Liverpool are going to sell Alexis McAllister and buy a midfielder next summer. I still don't think it's going to be the one that you've described.
Well, maybe there isn't someone who is perfect in that way that they will be able to come in as an alternative rather than be a starter. But I still think that there is someone who would be better than the options in that position that we've got, who would be who the manager would be able to trust to be able to say, okay, let's change it a little bit. Like, I'm not necessarily saying we go for a Zubimendi style, because I agree that there is a reason why they decided not to do that, and they thought that this would be better than going for a slightly lesser version of that. But I just think that there needs to be more variety, there needs to be more options, and having someone who you actually think that the manager trusts to put on the pitch.
To be clear, by the way, sorry, Mo, I'm not talking about Paulina.
No, but you can't talk about.
But there are good footballers in the league who are demonstrating some of these skills.
But what I'm saying, the reason why I say Paulina's won at the Etihad this season in the high pressing game.
But he's not very good on the ball.
No, but I'm saying though,
it's a problem.
But Paulina's one who you could theoretically get, who could come in and be a squad option to an extent and do this sort of thing that you describe. I'm fine with. Firstly and foremost, I think Liverpool supporters are obsessed with holding midfielders. Culturally, we're just fucking obsessed with the pricks. And we will always, any bad performance, come back to I'd fucking love a holding midfielder at all times, and we'll forget that we won the league last season with the lads who plays
But
it. I know you said that,
but certain things move on as well, and different challenges.
But I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. But my point is more what you are describing is you're not describing. None of you are describing a squad player. So as long as we just say I'm not describing a squad player, I'm fine with it. If we say I'd rather go in that direction and have more of a I'd rather have Fabinho. I'd rather go and find Fabinho. I fucking love. Look, listen, you are not going to struggle convincing me to have a team of 11 lads who are 6'3". You're pushing against an open door where I'm concerned. I'm just being, as I say, with the way the manager would be we want to progress the ball through the middle of the midfield. And last season we spent a lot of time praising our ability to be able to shift the ball brilliantly on the half turn, carry it through the middle of midfield, do all these things that we could do in the middle of the park. And I just think that you get to if you want to say Blacklear will do it differently, I am the man who would most like Fabinho to be playing centre midfield for Liverpool, but he's not Gravenberch, and he won't play on the half turn, and he won't go past anyone, and he won't pass it that well.
No, that's fine. And to be fair, this is back to maybe there's a set-up and structure point, because there's times where Gravenberch isn't playing that role anyway. He's in the team, but he's on the edge of the opposition penalty area. And listen, he scored goals this season, so you can go, well, tick, 3 goals, didn't get any last season, I don't think. So that can be a massive kind of plus point, but actually there's times when...
Would you rather just have him sit there?
Yeah. So maybe you haven't got to go into the market, but I think it's something Liverpool have to at least consider, because there's too many times when Liverpool's midfield is getting played through. It just is. I'm watching it every single week, so I don't think any of us are kind of making this up. We're seeing it with our own eyes. Liverpool are getting walked through, so something has to change, either the structure, and they have 2 more sitters or 2 more natural lads sitting, I should say, in front of the back 4, and he used the personnel you've got now. Let's be clear, they can't buy anyone right now, so maybe they have to do that. But at some point, does it come back on the radar that there's a player out there that maybe just moves the dial because they think he can do a little bit of everything? And some of those players do exist. So it doesn't have to be, a Mascherano type, although I did love him at the time. It doesn't have to be a Fabinho type. It doesn't have to be, Paulini you mentioned, but he just isn't good enough because Liverpool have far too much of the ball for him to exist, in my opinion, in the Liverpool team, because he just wouldn't be good enough in possession. But I think there are lads out there who are showing something that you think, well, they can mix it. They do sit and they can play football.
But I think that comes back to instruction. This is
it. That's what I'm debating.
To talk about that Fabinho, like for me, my favourite Fabinho was the one 21-22 when he's got Van Dijk +1, often Canate, sometimes Matip behind him, and he's got Thiago to his left, and he sits in a little square. And he just sits in a little square, and they move up and down the pitch together, and he sits in a little square. And I think this is back to... I think Gravenberch can do that. I think McAllister can do that.
Fabinho's was great footballer as well.
Well, yeah, he was, but he wouldn't play on the half-turn.
No, he wouldn't, but he had a good passing range in him as well. Slightly underrated. He could drop those balls over defenders' heads and stuff. He had a little bit more in his locker than just an enforcer or someone who breaks up play. He's a better footballer than that.
And at that point, he had Thiago next to him.
Yeah.
And this is my sort of... And I think that we've got I think you could do that at the minute with Gravenberch and with McAllister, and you could have the 2 there, and that can be your approach. But as you say, at the minute, it does look as though there's a little bit of instruction in that you're going to vacate that zone. But then that said, part of the frustration that I saw on the pitch yesterday was Szoboszlai wasn't happy that Gravenberch wasn't being front-footed enough in terms of coming and pressing and looking to win the ball back. He was turning around going, where are you? We're meant to be squeezing them at this point. But this comes back to, well, what's the fucking plan? All right, coming up, John Gibbons with Dominic King to talk about Dom's fundraising for Alfie's squad.
And it is John Gibbons from the Anfield Wrap with an insert to tell you about something incredible that's going on with Alfie's squad over the next week or so. Now, Alfie's been in, but people don't remember. It's an incredible charity set up by Alfie himself, where he was just a young lad, and he unfortunately lost his dad to suicide, and had a look around to see if there was any support for young people like him. I think he was 12 at the time, who to access support. Realised there wasn't any, and being the incredible lad he was, he thought, well, I'll set it up myself. Since then, Alfie's squad, it should be said, his mum Alison has helped him out a lot, of course, along the way. But now Alfie's squad is a fantastic thing. He's a recent award winner with the Liverpool Chamber of Commerce. He's won national awards. He's an incredible young man, and Alfie's squad continues to thrive, but it thrives through the support of people who are willing to help financially and help give up their time. And one of the things that they're doing is race for a reason over the next week, inspired by BBC's Race Across the World, which a lot of people will have seen. But the Race for a Reason is taking place from the 14th to 16th of November 2025, and is from Anfield Stadium to Stamford Bridge. I think there's 20 teams taking part, and one of them is no other than our old friend Dom King. Dom, thanks for coming on the Anfield Wrap.
No, thank you for having me on, particularly to talk about this, Gibbo. You know, I'll come on any time, but for this is very special to come on to be able to talk about.
So, I know you're a fan of the show. I know you're a fan of the charity. So, bringing them two together it must be quite nice for you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've known Alfie and his mum for a long time. My eldest son Oliver's the same age as him. They've played football together for years. So I know exactly kind of the work that he's done. I've never had the opportunity to do any of the initiatives that he's done before. I know he walked from Southport to Liverpool city centre once, and he's just been relentless in terms of raising awareness. But when Alison, his mum, spoke to me about this and said, would I be interested, I jumped at the opportunity. It's a terrific thing. Alison has been working on this for months and months and months. She hasn't stopped, and the people that have wanted to get involved is incredible. And it's going to be something memorable, something great fun, but also hugely important. And if we can raise awareness in the charity, it's so much the better.
Yeah, everyone who's taken part has paid an amount. I know your YouTube been sponsored by the Jockey Club, which is very kind of them. So shout out to the Jockey Club for covering Dom's entrance fee, but I know for everyone else they paid an entrance fee, and then people are raising money to do it as well. And so it's just given if you could find a link to that on Don King's socials if you do want to take part, and obviously on the Alfie Squad socials as well for all the people. Listen, it's all going into the same pot. It's all going to keep Alfie Squad going, and it is an incredible thing what they do, isn't it? You know,
it is.
People they support.
It is. I mean, listen, if we can just mention the people at Aintree and the Jockey Club, particularly Dick and White and Sophie May Clark, who have been huge supporters here. Dickens, they're all at Aintree, very aware of the local community support initiatives around Liverpool. That's why Aintree's thrive. That's why Aintree's the best racecourse in the country. They're aware of the local community and what's important, and they were delighted to be on board. And I'm humbled that they decided to back my team. But yeah, Alison and Alfie. Alfie's racing with Chris Kirkland. That's Alfie's team. Me and Mike, one of my boys, are going to do it. So whether we actually get ourselves out of Liverpool is going to be the biggest challenge, I think. But no, if anybody is willing to give a pound or £2, I know it's a tough time of year and things are challenging and whatever. But if anybody can spare a pound or two, there's a link on my page, my Twitter page, at Dominic_King_DM, or if you go to the Alfie Squad website, www.alfiesquad.org, and there'll be places that you can donate there. As I said, if it's a 50 pence, if it's a pound, it all makes a difference, because this, unfortunately, is an issue that is becoming more and more prevalent in today's society. I think there's around about 9,000 kids a year who are affected by this. It's a dreadful thing, and the admiration that I've got for Alison and Alfie for how they've become inspirations, and just everything they've done since that episode is. Well, I haven't got the right words to put into for them, but they're just inspirations.
Yeah. Apologies, I got it wrong before. He was just 9. Actually, Alfie, when he set up this charity, which obviously makes it even more incredible that a 9-year-old boy would be thinking about helping others at that time for him. He's 15 now and still doing absolutely incredible things. You mentioned you and your boy might not get out of Liverpool. I watched Race Across the World. I love it. It's back on again on Thursday. The parent and kid dynamics on there are interesting ones always. Sometimes they really pull together, and then other times it's like, I'm not listening to you. And so I'm interested in which way you think yours is going to go.
Well, if it's a snapshot of our house at the minute, nobody's going to be listening to me. No, I've got 3 boys, and nobody listens to me ever. So let's see how we go.
I'll be intrigued when I see you next to see how you're going to go. But it is, I mean, you just don't know anything though, do you? You're going.
No, literally don't know. Haven't got a clue.
Anfield to Stamford Bridge. It's 3 days, and that's it. That's all you know at the moment.
Yeah, haven't got a clue. I mean, like the show, we've got a budget to get ourselves around over the 3 days. Where we've got, I think there's 3 checkpoints on Friday, 4 on Saturday, and 3 on Sunday. Where we're going, who knows? All I know that there's 650 miles to cover, and I've been trying to. I think I did that last week alone, there and back to Sunderland. So, no, look, it's going to be fabulous, and a once in a lifetime opportunity to do it for them to help.
Yeah, I'd love to be taking part. Unfortunately, we're doing well. Depending on how you look at it, we're doing a live show.
Give on me and you'll do the proper Race Across the World. How about that?
God, imagine! I'll look after the map. I mean, you got yourself up to Sunderland and back yesterday, so it is good. Good practice. Just to finish on the football, that we've got, you did go to Sunderland yesterday. We're recording this before the Liverpool City game, so we can't really talk about that. But you enjoyed it yesterday, didn't you, Sunderland Arsenal?
Yeah, it's the 3rd time I've been up there this season. Anybody who... They're just a proper football club, proper fan base. It was an amazing occasion, and the noise throughout, even when they went 2-1 down so late in the game, they found an extra wind, and what a fabulous job they've done. And it just they're one of those clubs that have got such history and such a fan base, such a tradition that you want to see them thrive in the Premier League. The Premier League's better for them being there, and they're going to cause teams problems going forward.
Yeah. Well, I think they will. I think they'll be interested when Liverpool go there. You know exactly what they'll do, and Liverpool will have to deal with it indeed. But Dom, best of luck to you, and of course,
thank you very much.
He was taking part in Alfie's squad race for a reason. As Dom says, do try and sponsor the participants if you can. It's an amazing charity, and they're doing a lot of incredible stuff, and obviously people are giving up a lot of their time over the next few days. 3 days is also quite something to give up for any sort of charity, really, but people are doing it because it matters to a lot of people. So if you can spare yourself a few quid, do get yourself along to the socials and do that. But Dom, appreciate your time and best of luck with it.
Pleasure, Gil. Thank you very much.
All right, great stuff from John and Dom. I want to mention our live shows that we've got coming up. We are in London on Thursday, the 13th of November. He says hugely concerned that it's not that. On Friday, the 14th of November. Then there's a break, and then it's the 16th in Glasgow and the 17th in Edinburgh. You're in Edinburgh, aren't you?
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. All right, Ian Ryan making his debut. Edinburgh's never seen the likes. Be excited, my friends. I want to talk about some individual performances. I was going to do a wider sort of thing, but fuck it. So I want to let's start with Canate, because I feel as though we're sticking the boot in all over the place. We may as well continue. His performances in these away games, Grace ended with this one. I think you can look at 20 minutes minimum in each of them and go, that's nowhere near good enough.
Yeah.
And that was the same, I thought, on Sunday.
Yeah, mentioned it earlier, but when he comes over to Bradley, when Bradley's got the situations out with, and your confusion amongst your back line, that is a big concern for me, because you want 4 players in that back line who are very aware of each other's jobs and what they've got, what areas they've got covered, what men they're marking, where they are on a pitch. And I felt like Ibu, not that he necessarily doubted Bradley's ability to deal with that situation, but he could well have done by the speed that he moves over there and the confusion that he causes. And it's moments like that. And I said it before, that he was exposed and he had a lot more time on the ball than Van Dijk did, because of the way that City was set up and that did not work in his favour, and they've done that deliberately. And there was moments where he'd get the ball and I'd be looking at him thinking, just give it out. And he was just, and he did, it looked like he felt like he had nowhere to go and no way, like no options in front of him. And he obviously thought, I know that I'm under pressure here and I don't really know what I do about this. And I can't work out whether all of this stems from a confidence and trusting in the players that you're playing with, or whether he just knew that he was rattled and therefore it was all too much for him and he felt like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. And then he was stung.
He's been Liverpool's man of the match in a Champions League final. He's got an FA Cup winners medal. He's got 2 League Cup winners medals. He's been part of a squad that's got 90-plus points and made a Champions League final in the same season. He's been a key centre-back in a league-winning campaign for Liverpool. He does not feel like a senior professional.
No, still.
That's what Grace just described there. He does not feel like a senior professional.
No.
And I don't quite know what to do about this because he's now got so many big games under his belt.
Yeah, it's a real worry. And I think that his attitude, his demeanour, which aside from this, is one of the things I love about him, just as a human, when it comes into this situation, it becomes a problem. Because it goes back to what we were saying before about how whenever Virgil was not there, I've yet to see him play well. And so it's almost as if he's got that safety net alongside him, allowing him to, be stupid. He's a bit like a guy who just hasn't grown up yet. And I know that they are young and I am old, and you just look at it and just think, oh, come on, man. By now, he should have really worked this out. And I think Grace is absolutely spot on in terms of how he was dealing with the situation. He was thinking, oh, shit, they're targeting me. I've got to do something. I don't know what to do. And he should have been a little bit calmer because, and I say this, and I've said this and I'm blue in the face, he can, when he puts his mind to it, play good football. He can pass the ball. I think back to Bournemouth at home last season, where his passing creates all 3 Liverpool goals, where Bournemouth are actually trying to plan to press him, just like Man City did, and he played it brilliantly. So I don't know why that comes out of his mind.
That's confidence.
Every other time.
It's his confidence in his own ability. I think defensively, he's excellent. You see some of the tackles that he puts in and the way he, sometimes he does put his life on the line and fair, and he gets the plaudits for that. But I just think the pressure is too much for him yesterday, and he does not know how to deal with it.
But he's played a massive game. What's his 6.5 out of 10 look like? He's played in massive games. You know what I mean? Like, what's his?
I'd take 6.5 out of 10.
But no, that's the point. No, that's my point is I don't think we've ever seen it. No. I think you're either getting 4s or 5s, or you're getting 8s and 9s. Yeah. And that situation appears to be becoming more the case, not less the case as he grows older. And Grace is a far better human than me in many ways. I am fast approaching the end of my tether with watching this lad play
Well, he
football.
might be going anyway.
But it can't happen soon enough. And what I mean by that...
A lot of games between now and then, though.
But exactly, there's a lot of games between now and then, but also where I am with him is that it's not like I'm at the point now where I can't be bothered with the good performances. Because if it's going to be backed up with another one of them, getting lashed in, I've just got, you know what I mean?
But what's your alternative?
Well, I understand why the manager's
not Joe Gomez,
is it? Well, it is, yeah. I think Joe Gomez is a really good footballer who keeps his cool. Frankly, and by the way, if I thought that Canate was winning great aggressive headers that moved the ball away from Haaland so it doesn't ricochet off his face, then maybe I'd say, will you put up with that?
Yeah.
I can't be bothered watching a stopper who isn't stopping.
Yeah,
fair.
When Mark Gay got mentioned last season, a lot of people weren't keen.
Say me, yeah.
You weren't keen. Phil as well. I was keen. I like him as a footballer, I've got to be honest. And we've debated this on other shows. And people were saying, well, you can't have Mark Gay because you're going to get targeted in the air and stuff. Well, as you just said, Canate's winning fuck all in the air. Yeah. He's winning nothing in the air. I mean, I know Haaland's big, but that had nothing to do with anything yesterday because Haaland doesn't even challenge him.
Yeah.
And Canate thinks it's acceptable just to try and flick it on without even jumping. Just even jump. Does not get off the ground. So that's just... That you're watching this a lot, that it can't happen. And as you said, Neil, you can't have these little green shoots every now and again when he throws in a 9 out of 10 and you go, oh, maybe he's back.
Yeah.
But he's clearly, this is a long period of time now.
It's not consistent enough, is it?
But a long period of time that we're talking about.
I think the Haaland goal is indicative of the fact that it's not just about power, it's about the brain. Because the reason why Haaland does because it's the movement that Haaland does to get into position before Canate's there, because he already knows where the ball's landing before Canate does. Then he does the little lean when Canate is trying to do the back header, Haaland does a little lean to kind of give himself a little bit more room, and it's just smart. But it's the kind of thing that a seasoned defender would be aware of and wouldn't allow to happen. And I think back to the Palace game.
He is a season.
Yes, exactly.
How much more seasoning do you want?
but also, if he's not giving you the bit where you've just described, you know, he's big, he's 6'5", he's clear and stuff, he's nowhere near good enough on the ball to make it worth your while playing him in there. Because what else is he giving you? Because I tell you what, you can maybe look at Mark Gay and go, well, he's not that. Maybe he might lose out on the odd header because he's only 6 foot, not 6'5", but he's giving you far more than the ball. Giving you fucking far more than the ball. And opponents can't leave him because guess what? He'll punch stuff into midfield. Canate's not even capable of doing that. There was one where he tried to hit a diag yesterday, and it must have gone about 50 yards over someone's head. And you're thinking, well, no wonder they're fucking leaving it to you to do that. And I don't want to make this really just about him because it's not just about him. And as you said, he's done lots of good stuff in a red shirt. But at the minute, my God, we don't half need to stand up and step up and give us a 6.5, 7 out of 10 most weeks.
If he played left
as
wing,
a minimum.
If he played left wing and some games he's thrown in a 4 and some games he's thrown in a 9, I'm delighted. That's football. Certainly for the player, and you get to go, you know what I mean? Because not least because it's easy to say 55, off you come, it's not your day today. But next week, and we're not that far away from that being a decent enough description of Doku. Though I think Doku's gone up a level this year, but we're not that far away from being able to say that, you know, if you're centre-back, if you play centre-back, there's got to be consistency and certainty in what you're doing. And that's what's driving me mad. That's what you want. Like, as I said, Wednesday, 6.5 out of 10. Can I just have a 6.5 out of 10, please? Where Liverpool look like a sensible football team.
At the back.
Yeah. And that's what we're not getting, Mo, and that's what's hard to watch. Not least because you've seen them have so many 8s and 9s.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's what is causing him to not get to those levels? What is causing him to not be able to do that thing week in, week out? Because he's got the talent, he's got the ability, he's got everything that you need to be that consistent.
So what is it?
Mental?
It's got to be mental.
That he wants to go.
Mental?
It's got
to be mental.
I mean, even if...
I don't think it's that. He didn't want to go and Dominic Calvert-Lewin had him in a headlock for 90 minutes.
Well, this is the thing. Like, I think even last season people were talking about the Real Madrid stuff when he was still playing fantastic as well. I don't think it's as simple as just say, and that's that his mind's already out the door. No, I don't, and I think that part of it's a really weird situation with him because sometimes you listen to him speak. And I remember some of the interviews he did last season where in his mind, he clearly believes that he is one of the best players in the world. And you want that kind of belief and confidence from your players. But then sometimes you wonder if it's just, sometimes when people are really insecure, they just talk big. And then you see some of his performances and you think, well, maybe that's it. Maybe he's kind of convinced himself that he is this great centre-half when he doesn't
I didn't believe that about himself yesterday.
I think but I think there's something where he gets got at, and I think that what's really interesting is the way City get at him yesterday is they give him the onus of having the ball. Mateta got at him. When I refer to Calvert-Lewin got at him. Yeah. You know, and but there's different ways to get at someone, and to me, I feel as though City got at him. He got in his own edge yesterday.
Yeah.
And this used to happen a little bit, and listen, he's a far better player than Lovren, but Lovren used to get himself into these situations where you'd rattle him, and then you'd rattle them for the whole game. You'd rattle them for first 5 or 10, his head would go, and then you'd see it just spill into like the rest of the 70, 80 minutes that came after that. And he's a little bit like that, as I say, he's a far better player than him when he's at his very best, far better. But he does have these things where you've seen it when he gets into physical battles sometimes, where he lets that almost become the thing that's kind of, you know, dominating his performance. He's too busy kind of hooking into that as opposed to playing his normal game. I've seen him have loads of games like that, and that is a mental thing where he's almost hasn't got the ability to kind of step away and go and take a breath and go, I'll just play my normal game here.
I want to mention Bradley Grace, and then I think he does well under the circumstances. Yeah. And I think it's important to say that he might come off and feel like that lad's battered me there, really. But I actually think all around, Bradley, it's fine for one lad to play 10 out of 10 and the other lad to play 7. And that's what you get yesterday.
Yeah, he put a shift in. And he tried, and that's that's effectively all you want to see is someone going to the wire and actually trying their best. And I think he did try his best. You know, he's just had Vinicius in his pocket in midweek. He knows he's capable of doing it. He's gone to City and gone. He probably might be knackered from Tuesday, but he's the only one that I'm going to let have that privilege of being tired. But he did put a shift in, and I am so much more confident at now seeing him in that position. I think he is so much more mature than he was when he first started out. His talent is incredible. I really rate Bradley as a player, and I mean, let's not beat around the bush. Doku was their best player on the pitch, and it could have been a hell of a lot worse than what it was.
Yeah, a good week. He's had a good week.
He has.
And he gets to have a good week, even though this last bit doesn't go as
I mean, I think what we've seen from him in this week is the maturity that we were asking from Canate. In terms of, he wasn't a liability at any point. He was winning some of his battles against Doku. He was never kind of overexposed. He was never diving in. He was never, selling himself at any point. Doku was doing good things to get by him. There was times when he burst past him with that burst of speed, and he'd get back in, and he was never giving up on anything. He was still going there, and occasionally in the second half, he was giving them something to think about in the attacking front as well. I think when you consider how few 90 minutes he's played, how few games he still has in his Liverpool career, I think he's still really doing well, building blocks, and I think it was notable that he got a yellow card, and Slot still trusted him to stay on the pitch. Like, obviously, he does come off eventually and figures out Govic, but that's because he's knackered. And I think Doku might have already come off by that point anyway. Yeah. So it wasn't a case where what we saw last season, where he gets a yellow card and starts thinking, well, he might get a red here, so I'm going to have to take him off. That didn't happen, and he didn't deserve for that to happen.
But I said earlier about people trying to, prove that they've got a place in the squad and not thinking, I'm guaranteed a starting 11 spot. I think Bradley is unsure that when Frimpong comes back, Frimpong starts and where does Bradley go? And he's got that competition for his position, so he feels like he has to put a shift in. I want all of those players on that pitch to feel like they have to put the shift in.
I want to do two more, Ian. I'll start with Salah. He should be getting a goal or an assist over the course of the game. He gets more than enough ball to deliver. He's actually got some decent opportunities to deliver, frankly. I think he's involved in a lot of play. He ends up with a one-on-one. I think there's other chances times where he could get a shot away or get a better shot away over the course of the game. I think if you're Salah, on a day like that one, your team needs you to find output, and he didn't look like finding any over the course of the game. Yeah, absolutely. That's why he's one of the top boys, gets the top money, because you expect him to deliver in those big moments. And listen, he does it last year. I said, lead him to the game. If he gets anywhere near that level of performance, because he was unreal at the Etihad last year for 70 minutes. But it never happens for him. And you think, up against Nico O'Reilly, less than 20 Premier League appearances, you're thinking, Salah's a wily old fox, he might just give him one. Well, a couple of times he does, you get to see it, but it's not good enough then what comes then after. It's not good enough then, and he doesn't really kind of, build on those moments. So it was a poor performance from Salah. And listen, there's really kind of, again, green shoots against Villa and Real Madrid, and you're hoping he can build on that. But then maybe you are just seeing now where for someone of his age, maybe it just is becoming a little bit more difficult to put those performances together over 3 or 4 games physically. I don't know. It's hard with Salah because you're looking for reasons, and listen, it may all click again and it'll come good, but the longer it goes on, you are just looking at a player now that just doesn't look like he's anywhere near the level he once was. But, as I say, when you're that good, you're still going to have games and moments where there's flashes, but yeah, at the minute, it's not what it needs to be. Ekitike is hugely anonymous over the course of the time he's on the pitch. It's only 55 minutes in the end, Mo. It's a difficult one for him. I'd like to think it gets to be part of a learning curve, frankly. What I would say is I think that's the most impactful I've seen Haaland outside of the penalty area. Certainly the most impactful I've seen Haaland outside of the penalty area against Liverpool, but I think also in general I thought he was very, very involved in the game. That's what I want to see from Liverpool's number 9. I'm not interested. Some days you don't score. No. I want the centre-halves to know they were in a game, and I just don't think they did. No, they didn't. And I think that if you look, just take a look at Ekitike and Haaland physically, you can see why Haaland probably find it easier to get in the game in those areas. I think Ekitike still struggles with that physical side of it. I think it's notable that when Liverpool go long, they're still looking to Salah. Even as I was thinking against Real Madrid, there were loads of times when Carreras is literally twice his size, and they were playing long balls up to Salah. It's like, what about that guy? He's tall. He's not physical, but he's tall. So he should have some kind of chance of winning some balls in the air. But Liverpool aren't even trying with that tactic yet. I do feel for him in as much as I do think that to a large extent part of the reason why he's so anonymous is because we had such a hard time in even having any possession in their half, particularly in the first half.
which is what obviously he only played 55 minutes. That was most of his performance. But yeah, you want to see more. But again, I have more sympathy with him because he's still at the very beginning of his Liverpool career. I mean, ironically enough, this would have been a great game to have Isak available because I think that he probably would have been able to occupy them a little bit more and has done in the past. But that's not.
I just don't think he gets the service now. I think that's also part of the problem.
I think there's definitely something in that. I don't think Liverpool necessarily kind of enable him in a great way, but at the same time, I think in games like that, you want to see the striker impose himself on the football match a little bit more, and he doesn't really do that. But he's almost the least of Liverpool's problems in a way because he's been great up to this point. I think what you do see though, there are some kind of small weaknesses to his game. Understandably, he's come from a different country, still a young footballer, where if you've got the very, very best version of Alexander Isak, the very best version, he will be starting for Liverpool. If it's the version that was playing for Newcastle last season, where he's just, at times, he's obviously very, very tall, Isak, he's 6'4", but he's not built like Haaland, but he knows how to use his body.
Yes.
And I think Ekitike will learn how to do that. And the match I always think of is when Isak comes up against Gabriel and Saliba in the League Cup semi-final at the Emirates, and he just bullies the pair of them. And that's the kind of, forward performance that I think Ekitike can get to, but it's going to take him a little bit of time. So it's not surprising he has these games where it's just a little bit up and down, but I think if they can get Isak anywhere near the level we know we can get to, I think more often than not, he will be Liverpool's starting 9.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I thought that Mo and Grace came out of it really, really well. Both positive, warm people who want to see the best for Liverpool. Me and Ian, on the other hand, angry, ruthless bastards.
We've done a fucking lot of these, mate. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I'm just aware that I've got to do this 2 more times before this.
Don't mean to pace yourself. Pace yourself. No, it's all right. Me and you together, I'm with you. I'm with you in so many ways. But I'm just, I just think it's,
They got it fucking lightly.
That'll do.